I got this new program here that I'm using for the podcast, and I'll be honest, you're the first one to use it with me, so I was like, God, dang it.
You know,
But man, let's get started. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you're busy. Thanks for coming on the podcast, obviously. To get started, just tell us who you are, what you do at Zeiss, your background, maybe how you got there, how it influenced how you evaluate optics, and what you look for in optics and all that.
yeah, I guess you want a 10,000 foot flyover, or you want a 100,000?
What? Say that again.
You want the 10,000 foot flyover or the 100,000 foot view?
Both.
All right. Well, I got an echo. I got to try to figure out how to get this out of here. Sorry. Or you can cut. Okay, so when I was a kid, I I grew up in a part of the world where you couldn't really stay very far. Like unless you were in a cattle pasture, you weren't seeing beyond 100 yards. So I think it was Peterson's hunting magazine. One of the monthly issues had a ballistics chart for like every caliber known to man in the back, and I just studied it. I thought it was fascinating. So at 13 years old, I could tell you that the bullet drop for every caliber known to man out to 300 yards, but I didn't have any understanding of why. So you fast forward beyond college and kind of into the future. I had gotten into archery quite a bit, like the hunting side, but also like shooting some competitively archery stuff. And the wife and I were moving from down south back to Omaha, and I I I would just I just all said "Don't do it." So uh, I walked into the local shield store here, and they hired me on the spot, and I was like an archery tech for a little while, but then quickly shift over to managing the rifle shop. And things progressed, and how do we get to like where we are now is all of a sudden I started picking up a rifle again, and I wanted to shoot it farther and farther and farther. So that's right, just teaching myself and watching bullets fly. And if you look back at what I was using to teach myself, it was probably the worst possible setup you could have ever had. I mean, I'm shooting like a 300 Win Mag, trying to shoot 600 yards and just getting the heck beat out of you. But it taught me a whole lot. So um, here we are. Seriously, since I was there for 14 years, and now we are 5 years later, um, working for Zeiss. I manage. Well, I was doing 11 states, which is roughly 20% of the country. I hired a guy, Trevor, to take half that off my plate. So now what I do for Zeiss, I manage relationships, dealer bases, trainings, anything and everything through the 5 states that I oversee.
Okay, awesome. So, how long have you been with Zeiss now?
It'll be 5 years here in a couple weeks.
Years. Okay, sweet. Well, let's just step back a little bit. How, from when you first started shooting, how has the optics changed since, like, from the first optics you used to now? I know they've changed a lot, but I want to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, and optic is just an optic. Nothing's really changed in any of those things in years and years and years, except for user friendliness to the end user, if that makes sense. You still look through the ocular and out the objective. They still have frames, they still have coatings, they still have glass. It's just everybody's getting much better at putting them together. Um, and we've gotten smarter. You don't see milled turrets with MOA reticles or vice versa anymore. Like things are making sense. So it's a good time to be a shooter because it, it it's just I won't call it easy, but like the stuff we were using 20 years ago was caveman type stuff. And when you really look at the technology and the way that not just us, but the whole optics industry has pushed.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing that comes to my mind is just the turret system. I remember, so in Colorado, you can't hunt until you're 12, big game. And I remember my first deer, my dad was like, just hold like 3 inches over its back. And I'm trying to judge 3 inches in my scope, you know? But nowadays, like my wife, she just started hunting. Nowadays, I just, whatever the mills are, I just dial the turret and I'm just dead on, I just aim dead on. So that's
Sure.
like the biggest thing that comes to my mind on the, like how optics have changed since I've been hunting. Obviously, I haven't been shooting nearly as much as you saw when we went to Nebraska. But yeah, that's the biggest thing that's changed for me. Um, but the reason why I wanted to get you on here is obviously um, you guys are releasing the new V3 lineup, and I really want to talk about that. So, um, if you guys don't know, Nick and I flew out to Omaha about a month ago to shoot with Eric and test out, shoot a bunch of the V3 scopes on rifles. And so I want to talk about that. So, what is the V3 line? What gap does that fill for marksmen and hunters and competition guys and all of that?
Yeah, so I can't just give you that answer. I got to give you a little bit of history leading up to the answer, if that's okay. So Zeiss is 180 years old this year. We're the oldest optics manufacturer in the world, and we're headquartered in Oberkochen, Germany. So in the U.S., it's always been anybody, anywhere we go, anywhere you talk to, you guys make great glass. Like that's a fact. We own shot glass. We have since 1919. That's a fact. But what Germany needs and what the U.S. needs are apples and oranges. Really, really is. So it always been. Uh, Germany has this product and sent it to the U.S. So let's just take a V8 for example. Maybe it was a 2.8 to 20 by 56 V8. Well, it has third minute adjustments because they're in centimeters. It has reticles that are, just a plain Jane plex with a dot or just a post. Things that the American hunters, it's just not what they're looking for, right? So if you go back, I'm going to guess it to be 12 years or so now, we hired a guy named Kyle Brown, and Kyle has really pushed for the US market specifically. So that's where the V4 came from, the V6, the North American VD, the tripods, the SFLs, etc. And one thing after another, when this product is being designed for the US market specifically. Okay. So now we get to the point where we are now. And when I first heard about this V3 product, I kind of stepped back and went, why? Why does Zeiss, the oldest manufacturer in the world, oldest optics manufacturer in the world, need to build a $500 rocket scope? But then you step back again and think about it. Well, we're the oldest optics manufacturer in the world. If somebody else can do it, why can't we do it and do it better? So, so why are we here? Because if you take every single rifle scope sold in the U.S. on an annual basis, a very conservative number would be that 80% of them are under $800 retail. Our V4 line, our 3 to 12 by 44, started at $800. So if you take the entire market, we were ignoring 80+% of the entire end users. Now, we're never going to be. I mean, we're a premium optics player. We're never going to be one. We can't talk to that bottom 20%. That's going to be like the real basic end stuff. But we do feel like we can offer a better product to that 20 to 100%. Well, that's where the V3 came from, and where we're going to see it as we go into next Wednesday.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. This podcast will be releasing on the 15th. That's when the V3 gets released. Um, so I'm really excited for that. And I have, like I said, I have shot a lot of the scopes. We compared. I'm not going to name anyone, any other manufacturers, but we compared the V3 to some other scopes, and the clarity on the V3 is very noticeable compared to the other scopes at that price point. And that's what it just fills a gap in the market. I feel like a lot of those scopes in that price point leave something to be desired, but then the V3 kind of picked up on that. And the big one that comes to my mind is the clarity. The clarity was unreal when we were shooting those, and we were shooting them in all light conditions out there. So, so how what are some features in the V3 that make it stand out over the other manufacturer scopes in that price point?
And so what we're calling Zeiss Bright technology. Okay, we know we're an old prestigious rifle scope optics manufacturer, but we've also owned shot glass since 1919. Okay, so Zeiss Bright, you'll see Zeiss Bright in the marketing, is nothing more than, say, 90% light transmission. And what I'm going to tell you is, how do I word this? Other competitors are not listing light transmission at these price points.
Why do you think that is?
You're trying to put me on the spot here. Because 90% light transmission doesn't exist until at these price points.
Okay.
So when you say features, first thing that jumps out, we can talk features and marketing and specs, etc. But the thing that talks out, if I take all my Zeiss gear off and I talk to you as a shooter, the first thing I notice is side by side with some of the other scopes in that price range. Field of views are larger. Overall elevation travel in your turrets is significantly greater. And optically, they just pop.
Yeah, that's what I noticed the most. When I say clarity, that's what I mean. Like the optical clear, like just the clearness and the light gathering and all of that was unreal to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a V4 on my 22-250. It's cap turret. It's 22-250.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I don't have side by side, but it really reminded me of the V4 when I was shooting it out there.
Well, that's an equivalent light transmission, and I'll tell you a little story. So V4s are 90%, V3 80%. So I had a class out at my range out of Nebraska a couple of days before you guys showed up. Okay, have steel out there 2,200 yards, and I had a couple students there, and we're shooting all the stuff. Well, think you guys shot, but they all had different scopes on. So when those students left that afternoon at 4:30, 5 o'clock, I pulled all those scoops off, and I mounted P3s on all of them and then zeroed all of them. So we were shooting V4s, V6s, S3s, that class. And I'd spent a lot of time with V3, but it was the first time that I had like pulled what I had been using off, put them on, and immediately put them into use. And I remember the first rifle, I like adjusted my ocular, adjusted my parallax, looking through the first round. I remember sitting back thinking, like, wow, it wasn't a V6 or a V8, but optically, it was way, way, way better than it could have been for knowing the price point of what that scope is.
That's what I'm saying. Like at the price point, it fills a huge gap. Because um, when we were up there, you said something like, uh, don't quote me exactly because I don't really remember, but you said something like when people think of Zeiss, um, obviously think of high quality optics, but they think of kind of the more expensive, like optics, like you said, $800 and above. This
Mm-hmm.
fills that gap. So if you're wanting to buy um, a scope for your kid's first rifle, or if you're wanting to rescope your grandpa's rifle he gave you, this is a great option for that. And you have, I think you said like 19 SKUs. Is that correct?
There's 19 SKUs, 2.5 to 8 by 35 rimfire, starting at $299.99. Then there's 2.5 to 8 center fire, 3.5 to by 42 in multiple models, 4.5 to 4 by 44 and 50 in multiple models, and 6 to 18 by 50 in 4 different configured models.
Okay, awesome. So are those in all MOA? Any will be offered in mills?
At this time, all MOA and all second focal plane, because they're designed specifically to the hunter.
Okay, awesome. So does it have the same turret system as like a V4 or a V6?
No, but eerily similar. When you take them off, the ballistic stops work the same, the ballistic up works the same. The screws are different, but eerily similar to a V4. Take it apart.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So which obviously I'm out west here. What would be a good out of the V3 lineup? What would you recommend for the western hunting? Obviously, our average shot, I would say the average shot out here is probably 350 yards, I would guess.
Sure. Interesting question. You're putting me on the spot, and I don't have to give you an answer, but I feel like I should ask you 6 follow-up questions and let you stick yourself right into which product it is. But the easy answer is, ideally, when you think of west, you think of farther, more wide open. So I would instantly tell you 4.5 to 14. But if you're shooting 0 to 400 yards, comes at 3.5 to 10. 10x is more than sufficient to shoot those distances and beyond.
I want to get your take on that because I think a lot of western hunters, when they think, oh, I'm going out west and they're going to buy a brand new scope and come out here and hunt elk, they want that higher magnification all the time for some reason. So why do you recommend that magnification range for western hunting?
Well, as magnification goes up, field of view goes down. No way around it. So, yeah, spotting impacts, but you're planning on taking this 400-yard shot on a bull on an opposite hillside. But what happens if you jump them up when you're walking through and all of a sudden you need to take a third? So that lower magnification give us a wider field of view. So I'm not looking through this, I'm looking through this to find my target. So it really comes down to target acquisition.
Okay. Awesome. So see that's interesting. So I would go with your first choice. I'm a big 4 to 12 guy. I think that's the perfect magnification range for like a do it all rifle scope. You still have that wide field of view on the low end, but at the high end at 12, you you still have that field of view and you can spot your impacts, make corrections if you need, um, and all of that. So,
Can I devil's advocate you here?
what'd you say?
Can I add devil's advocate you here? Okay, you said 4 to 12. And earlier you asked me a question about how optics had progressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you say 4 to 12, which is a 3-time multiplier, right? 4 on the low side, 12 on the high side. Well, why not a 4-time multiplier? When you think about a V4, it'd be 3 to 12. Or you go to V6, it's a 3 to 18. So when you asked the question earlier about how optics have progressed, you can now keep the 3 of the old 3 to 9 that grandpa used to use, but you could have 12 or 18 or 20 on the high side, just depending on how technical a guy wants to go with it.
Yeah. So I don't now. I'll be honest with you. I'm not in the technical of the optics. That's why I'm talking to you. And I think a lot of people aren't technical on that either. I just think they look for a low range and a high range. So
Sure.
why would someone want a 3-time magnification or a 4 and vice versa?
That's cost of manufacturing. It's a whole lot easier to make a 3-time multiplier, which is why we're talking V3s, right? V3s. Why does a V4 cost more? Well, there's some things internally, but when you break it down to nuts and bolts basics, a 3-time multiplier isn't as hard to make as a 4. A 4 isn't as hard to make as a 6. 6 isn't as hard to make as an 8. So there's a whole lot more moving parts that have to go inside those spirits or inside the tubes, erectors, etc. Have space to make all that thing work like it should. And it's just cheaper to the end user to have a 3x than it is a 4x, or 4x than it is a 5x, 5x, and 6x.
Okay, so there's basically just less moving parts,
You got it.
but it doesn't change the quality or clarity or any of that. That's dependent on the glass that's inside.
The glass, the coatings, how many pieces of glass, what coatings are in each individual piece of glass. So, um, yeah, I have it in my storage unit. I have a cutaway of the scope where it's cut completely in half, and you can see in the inside. Okay, but you can see that piece of glass, and you can see that piece of glass. What you can't see is that there's 6 or 8 or 10 other pieces of glass mixed throughout here. Okay, and a coating that's on this piece of glass and this piece of glass is different.
Okay.
And the coating that's on the inside of this piece of glass and the inside of this piece of glass is different. And this one is different, and this one, and this one. They all have different prescriptions. So there's some engineers over in the lab smarter than probably all this put together. That are coming up with what prescription of coatings needs to go on each, what I call glass to air surface, right? Outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, all the way through. And they're coming up with what's going to make that thing perform the best. So we can't just say it's glass, because you got the best piece of glass in the world and have a coating on it, and it's a Coke bottle.
Okay. So it's the coatings that are the clarity and all of that then.
Well, glass first and foremost, but what you do with that glass and how you finish that glass. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. See, I didn't know any of that. I know a little bit about optics, but that's why we're talking to you. So so what continuing on the V3, why are you most excited for the V3? Why should people be excited about it? Besides the price point. We already talked about the price point. We know that that's a huge selling point for it. You cover a vast majority of people, especially Midwest and Eastern whitetail hunting. I see this being a phenomenal option for whitetail hunters.
Mhm.
What are you most excited about it, and why would someone want to buy a V3 besides the price point and the light transmission? We went over that.
Yeah, yeah. So on a personal level, when I think back to myself as a kid, and not just when I was a kid, but as I was coming up and starting to become an adult and transitioning to where I am now, the things that I used, and I'd get behind the scope and there's a deer I want to shoot, and I can't see the thing anymore, right? Um, it just it's never been done before. This optical quality has not been done before, and then you said eliminate price, but at price that is available and in reach from that big of a target audience. So just basically giving myself 25 years ago a product of this quality and letting me grow with it. Does that make sense? It just excites me. It excites me.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. So back to I just want to step back a little bit with the Zeiss Bright. Is that the same glass and coating that's in the Zeiss Appia that you guys released earlier?
Nope. Different different prescriptions altogether.
Okay. I was just wondering because I know that um is it the same in the I'm gonna get this wrong. Is it the 10 by 52 binos?
10 by 50 SD12s.
Yeah, the 50s. That's right. 10 by 50. Sorry. I knew I'd get that wrong.
Different as well. Different prescriptions.
Well, okay. I just wanted to
Mhm.
clarify that because I knew that you guys released those earlier this year, so I wanted to see that. Um, well, is there anything else you want to talk about on the V3 before I want to talk about some other PRS stuff after? Um, but is there anything else you want to talk about on the V3 before the release date, which is the 15th? That's when this podcast is going to get released. So,
Yeah. Next Wednesday.
yep.
I don't think so. Like you touched on, it's exciting times. 90% light transmission again has never been done before at these price points, and it opens up. We call this product the gateway to Zeiss quality. It opens up Zeiss quality to a volume of end users that were never before Zeiss customers.
Yep. But you still have that same quality. That's the big thing.
Yeah, these things are made in Japan. Like, this is not an entry level rifle skill. It's the gateway price quality rifle skill.
All Zeiss retailers will have it on the 15th, or is that when you start shipping them out?
We will release them to the general public, so we'll start talking about them on the 15th. They will be shipping to retail the first week of August.
Okay. So I know, obviously, Red Hawk Rifles, sponsor of the podcast. I know that you'll be able to pre-order it from them on the 15th.
Correct. Yep. And they will have product available to ship. I feel very confident saying if you need 100 of them, probably not. But if you need a skill, they should have a solid representation of those 19 SKUs by 10th of August.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Alrighty. So I want to get into some PRS stuff here because, yeah, we laid prone a lot when we went up there and shot, and that's how I usually shoot hunting. Well, you can't really get prone uh, hunting a lot out here in the West, but if I can get prone, that is my absolute go-to. That's where I feel the most comfortable, stable, etc. But I shoot off a tripod a lot. We didn't do any of that. But what we did work on was a lot of positional work, and you were probably laughing at Nick and I because we definitely had an eye opener. Nick said that the biggest thing he needs to work on, I thought it was funny, was getting in shape because he was so sore that night.
Mm-hmm.
His legs and back were just garbage, he told me. My biggest thing was obviously the skeletal, getting into your skeletal form was very new to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was in my muscles a lot, and that's why my wobble on target was unreal. So can you just kind of briefly go over why you want to get in your skeletal form on positional shooting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so hold on, guys. Let me back up real quick. For those that don't know, Eric shoots PRS competition, so this is not something new to him. He is he's very good at teaching how to do it because it just comes natural to him. And I learned a lot from you that day on that.
Well, I wouldn't say it comes natural, but repetitions start building good habits. So you asked about skeletal frame versus muscular frame. Cass, put your arm out and fist bump me here. Hold it for an hour. Don't move.
Oh yeah, that's not gonna be fun.
Yeah, but if I took support, if it in a tripod underneath you, all you had to do was stay on top of the tripod. How long did you hold it there?
I could hold it for days.
That's muscular frame versus skeletal frame, right?
Yeah.
That tripod is your skeletal frame. And if you move the tripod out of the way, you're having to hold that there, and it's no different than the rest of your body, right? You don't want to be bent in the knees where your calves are holding you up. If there's a way to square up your body and manipulate it, so then you're standing directly on bones, you're not, your bones don't fatigue, your muscles fatigue.
Okay. So that's why it's important to get in your skeletal frame so much while you're shooting.
Correct.
Okay. And that, well, when, so after you showed me that, I think I was like I was on that rock structure over there, and I didn't have my feet wide enough. My knees were just bent a little bit, and that's what I could feel my legs shaking a little bit, and that transpired into the rifle, into the reticle, and I could see it. And as soon as you told me to widen my base and get into my skeletal frame, like that reticle, the crosshairs just like locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So, but the reason why I want to talk about this is I get a lot of questions, and I'm not one to be answering them fully right now because it's all new to me. But there's a lot of new shooters wanting to get into PRS competitions or NRL hunter competitions and all that, and they just want to know what is the biggest thing they can work on. Um, they've asked a lot of guys, and they get questions from A to Z, or they get answers from A to Z. So, what would be the biggest thing you think they could work on if they wanted to get into it? Obviously, they just need to go shoot one. They'll learn a lot there, and I think that's a big barrier for people. They're afraid to just jump in and go shoot one.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go and shoot one, you learn. You obviously there's guys there to win, but a lot of guys are just out there to shoot and have fun, especially at the NRL hunters. And they will, if you ask them questions, they will help you so much. So just get out there and go shoot one. It's going to make you a better hunter, obviously. But I want to hear your take on what you think would be the number one thing someone would need to work on if they want to get into shooting one of those.
Go shoot one.
Shoot more trigger time.
So PRS, my very first PRS match, I went with a buddy of mine and practiced for 45 minutes, and I wouldn't shut. Yeah, before, and I wouldn't shut the gap right.
Okay.
So I also told I was an amateur at that point. I also told my pro I want to do this on my own, like sink or swim.
Yeah.
And then they told me everything after the fact, and you start building into it. My very first hunter match, 0 practice, went in and shot. You learn more, even if it's like to go to your local club, find a local one-day match. Tell the match director, brand new. Typically, they'll be okay with this. I don't want to count for score. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I need help. And there will be somebody there that will help you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So go and shoot. That's what I tell everyone. I feel like I don't know if there's some kind of barrier right there. They're scared. That's what it is. They're just scared to go and shoot one. Just go and shoot one. I don't know much more. I don't know much about PRS, but with NRL Hunter, they have a division that is called, man, what is it called?
I believe it's called skills.
Skills division. That's exactly what it's called. And what's nice about that is you can watch the shooter in front of you. You can't range the targets, but you can see where the targets are. You can see how they built their positions, how they did their gear management, and all of that. So then you can shoot behind them. So that helps you a lot too.
Yeah. So when I say go shoot, I'm very heavily involved the last several years with what was called the Nebraska Sportsman Series. It's now just a Sportsman Series.
Okay.
But we now have a division called Mentored, which means they're going to pair you up with somebody that, like, if I have somebody that I'm mentoring, I'm going to shoot it ahead of them. They're not going to come watch me shoot it. But whenever they go up, I go up with them. Their scores don't count, but I can coach them the entire way. And if we have a 10-stage map, honestly, by the 4th stage, they don't need my help anymore.
They're on their own. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome that you guys do that. So that's cool. But yeah, guys, just go shoot one. You guys will learn a lot. Um, just just jump in. It's fun too. It is awesome. I just shot my first one here. I don't know, it was a few months ago. It was just an NRL Hunter Games match. It was just a 10 stage 1 day match, and it was a blast. I had a blast. I'm hooked now. I told my wife I'm now getting into reloading because I found out shooting factory ammo that's gonna burn a hole in my wallet. Buying all the reloading gear just burned a hole in my wallet, but it'll be worth it in the end. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's that saying that's going around: you buy a $5,000 rifle, it's the best $10,000 investment you've ever had. That's what's going on with me right now.
Sure.
But yeah, it was fun. So I don't want to take too much time of you. I'm almost done here. I just want to talk about your hunting rifle. I got to see it up there. It's that 7 Psalm. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. What's one of them?
One of well,
I actually just finished building my little girl one, almost identical.
really? What did you build her a 7 Psalm too?
No, 6.5 Creed. The component wise and overall build, very, very similar.
That's awesome. What'd you use to build it?
So, Manners LR8 Sports Cop, TL3 short action, proof carbon. It's got a Trigger Tech diamond. What am I missing here? That's all.
Did you put a V3 on it?
It's got a 6-36 S3 on it. Yeah.
That is, if you guys haven't shot an S3, so I've looked through Nick's. Nick has an S3 on his 6.5 Creedmoor. And I've looked through it, but after shooting all those S3s up there, I was like, whoa, that thing is sweet. That scope is awesome. It's gonna be my next one for my next build. I already told Nick. So, but why? So I get this question a lot too. Calibers. I'm going elk hunting. What caliber should I get? Why did you pick 7 Psalm? Especially with all the new precision rifle cartridges, the PRCs out, the 300 PRC, the 7 PRC, etc.
All right. So going way back, I'm never going to dog on competition, but I'm going to tell some facts here. Okay. There was a 6 millimeter Remington, right? And a 243 Winchester.
Okay.
The 6 millimeter Remington was thought of when it was of a varmint cartridge. So it had a twist rate of a lighter bullet. The 243 was thought of to be a deer cartridge. It was twisted for heavier bullet. How many 6 millimeter Remingtons do you still see around? I saw one in a shop in Lincoln the other day, but not very often, right? When you go to, the 7 millimeters, 7 Psalm was released by Remington several years ago, and they thought it was a light per caliber bullet, and it didn't really do much. Well, when you get away from factory rifles and you're building your own, and you put the appropriate twist rate in that barrel, it shoots the 180, the big heavy 7 millimeter bullets. It's wicked. So, why 7 Psalm? Because I have a 280 Remington actually improved, 708, 7 rim mag, 28 Nosler. I just like those. I like those 168 and heavier 7 millimeter bullets. So I felt that was the best overall option in that 7 millimeter diameter. So I can run an 80 burger at 2950, and that's not pushing them. But realistically, if you take a 30 calibers with 300 Win Mag, most guys are going to shoot a 180 out of it. Where I can shoot a 180 out of a 7 millimeter with a much higher PC and sectional density. It just It does everything I ever needed to do in a short action. That rifle is on a medium action to keep bullets out, but it does everything the big 30 cals can do with less recoil and less powder charge.
There you go, guys. There's Eric's take. 7 SAUM. Awesome, man. Well, I don't have anything else for you. Is there anything else you want to say about the V3 lineup? Getting into competition shooting, anything hunting?
Go do it.
All righty. Well,
Go do
I
it.
appreciate you getting on here, man. I'm excited to see how the V3 takes off because I'm pretty sure it will. I know that when you guys released the V4 years ago, it took off. And I really think that the V3 is going to do the same thing. So I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, there's a excitement level amongst the dealers around the country that I haven't seen previously.
Yeah, I really think so. I know us at Red Hawk, we are ecstatic. We've been planning for it. We have a whole section on the shelf cleared out to stock with V3. So when we get them in, we're hoping they sell like crazy. So I think they will.
Well, we're going to push for allocation. We'll get you as many as we can.
Say that again?
We'll push for allocation and get as many as we can.
Yes, definitely. And we also on the 15th, we filmed a bunch of videos with Eric. They will also be released on the 15th, so you guys watch out for that. And I think I'm good, man. I appreciate you coming on. You have fun at those baseball games today.
All right.
All righty. Thanks, man.
All right.
Where precision rifles meet Western hunting, built for elk hunters, mule deer addicts, and shooters who understand. The first shot is the only one that matters. Real experience, real conversations, real gear. This is Bolt and Bone.